Okay, I think we've probably got a quorum, so we can get started. Thank you, as I said before, thank you very much for joining us, everyone. Today presenting, we have on the right of your screen, Executive Chairman Terry Streeter, and on the left, Project Director Gavin Rutherford.
Good morning.
So without stealing too much thunder from these two men that need no introduction, Sequoia has recently become involved in this project to lead a $1 million pre-IPO round ahead of an anticipated IPO of the company in either the fourth quarter this year or very early in 2025, which will be a significantly larger capital raising to fund their Maristela project in Brazil. Terry and Gavin will go into the project's history as well as the upcoming plans for both capital rounds and the projects which the funds will be utilised for. So Terry and I think Terry will do most of the presenting. So he will effectively tell the story of the history of the asset and the company, and we will just go along with the slides. We will do a 15 to 20 minute turn through of the deck, after which point we will open it up to Q&A. If you do have questions as we go, please feel free to put them in the chat and we'll get them answered at the end. Terry, please take it away.
Do you want to follow this through with the presentation or?
Yeah, we'll just start like that, but as I say, talk to it however you would like.
Yeah, well, the company decided to go down to Brazil back in 2010. We sent our geologists down there to look at projects in Brazil. Some of them weren't suitable and too expensive. So we did our own exploration work down there, and finally we ended up with the Maristela project, which ended up being the iron, titanium, vanadium project that's there now. We've done a tremendous amount of work on this project. The resource there is quite considerable at the moment, and the drilling was, I think we've done about 5,500 meters of drilling, and established quite a large inferred resource there initially, now ready to go into the next stage of environmental process, which we've done, environmental consideration, and that work's been done, and also the work on the PAE for the government there. So the project is well advanced at the moment. It's in the state of Piauí, which is in the north of Brazil. It's a fairly poor state, mainly subsistence farming. We've got no opposition to the project. We're in contact with the local government considerably, also the federal and state governments. We've introduced this project to Bolsonaro when he was president, and we had full support from the federal system there. Also, the Australian government, the Australian embassy in Brazil, are very keen to get projects in operation down there so that they can initiate funding to areas of importance there in social funding, whether it be health, hygiene, or sporting facilities. And so we've got considerable support for this project. The ongoing work that's being done now, and the funds that we need to raise to send this project now into production, will be like over the next 2 years, we'll be doing a feasibility study, getting into a bankable feasibility study to raise funds to send it into production, probably in 2 years' time. The rest of the project is centrally situated, where the main town there is San Raimundo, where our offices are, and the project's about 50 km away from that, in a place called Maristela, Inicio de Abreu. The exploration ground that we hold there and the added exploration ground at Inicio is quite considerable to advance the project even further down from their initial 16-year mine life, probably up to 20, 25-year mine life, and producing around about 700,000 tonnes of 67% iron, around about 800,000 tonnes of 40% ilmenite, and about 3,500 tonnes of vanadium per annum. So it's quite a considerable project. In addition to that, the project was initially pegged for phosphate. There is phosphate there, and that will be an offset that we will be looking at too, to bring that into the equation for some revenue out of that phosphate situation that surrounds the ore bodies there at Maristella. We are also well situated with the local community. They're very supportive. Of course, they're very poor. It's a very poor area, so they're sort of desperate to get something done there. And the work that we've done there with the help of the local people has been quite encouraging. We really appreciate the support we get from the people there, the local government, the state government, and the federal government. It's quite different from here. You know, here it's very negative. There it is very, very positive, because they need these projects to get off the ground. There's about 200 million people in Brazil, so they all need to be fed and housed in some way. And so basically, that's where we are with the project. I can't see. The infrastructure. Sorry, the infrastructure there. We got to the north, about 200 k's to the north is the Trans-Nordestina rail line that the Brazilian government are putting in place with a private company. I think it's just about completed now, out to the port of Suape to the east, and I think the area to the north, the port of Pecém, is totally completed. They have said we have been in contact with the Trans-Nordestina rail line people, and they are willing to put a spear line down towards our project to recover the production there and take it off to one or the other ports. Also, we've not met with the people in Pecém, but we've met with the port people in Suape, and naturally they want to do business too. So everything in Brazil, in our regard for Riverbank, is very, very positive. The infrastructure around with water, power, there's an airport 10 kilometres, an international airport 10 kilometres away from the project, and we couldn't really want for anything there that is not in our favour. It's a wonderful project, we believe. We believe that the money we've spent there, which is probably close to $5 million now, is well spent, and we believe that the project has got all the recipe there for a long-term initial project. In saying that, we've also got some lithium tenements in a different state that we picked up around about 18 months ago. Our geologists believe that they're good for the what do they call it? Spodumene.
Yep.
So we are going to probably do a little bit of work on those tenements too, on the lithium side of things. But our main focus is the Riverbank Maristella iron, titanium, vanadium, phosphate project in the state of Piauí.
So we're looking at ASX listing in the short term, and just to reiterate what Terry said, it's just such a refreshing approach in Brazil, with 3 levels of government that have just bought into this 100%. Like every level of government is supportive. In Piauí, it's an underdeveloped state of Brazil, and it's a subsistence agriculture type of environment. So the people there are very, very keen to see this go ahead. In a community buy-off model that I've not seen before in mining, compared to what happens in Australia. The question of community support is also, as Terry said, completely supported by the Australian government. And I guess what I'm saying is, as far as ESG credentials go, if anyone's interested in that aspect of the business, which is an important aspect, this doesn't get much better. Logistics-wise, Terry just also commented on the logistics aspect of it, and we are in dialogue with a Netherlands-based company that's been in Latin America for the last 30 years. Its name is Steinweg Hendelsveem. I can never say it properly, but they are logistics experts. And as far as our pit to port model goes, costings-wise, we are engaged with best-in-class people to cover that off, and we'll be updating the market as we improve the model. Currently, the model is very, very robust for the logistics, and we're just interested in making it get a lot better.
One thing I'd like to add is that we're not in the process of offtake at the moment with any company. As I say, at the moment, this is a private company. It's been well run, and it's been funded by mainly myself and other investors. But down the track, I'm sure that we're going to have some competition with the offtake on this particular project.
Yeah.
But that gives us the strength there of having it, as a really standout project that is not one particular commodity. We've got three different, or rather four different commodities there that people are going to be interested in.
Gavin, maybe best you speak to this just in the leadership that is evident within the company and the experience that Terry brings to a project like this.
Sure. For those of you that aren't familiar with Terry and his background, Terry's known in Western Australia probably more as Mr. Nickel, with an initial involvement that was highly visible with Jubilee Mines, and the resultant very, very profitable exit for shareholders when that company was taken over. In more recent times, Terry was the founder of Western Areas, which followed the same model, and we're going to be following the Western Areas model, where we're going to be looking at debt funding, such as our confidence in this project. We don't see a need with Riverbank to go beyond the first IPO before we head out for a debt funding model to build the infrastructure. So everyone needs to measure twice and cut once, Michael, when they're building a project. And in this instance, we've got a strong record through Terry's successes in previous projects and companies that we're going to use as the cookie cutter for Riverbank in Brazil. So we're looking forward to a very, very positive model to get this moving at the IPO, but then the news will only get better for the people that got aboard at that moment, because we don't anticipate dissipating the shares or diluting the shares anymore to get the project going. We're going to follow a debt model.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. I'm happy to speak on capital structure briefly. So you'll see there are 65 million shares on issue as it currently stands. We're proposing to raise $1 million at 16 cents, which is just over 6 million shares. That represents a 25% discount to the proposed IPO price later in the year of 20 cents, at which point the company will raise between $20 to $25 million. A really important thing to note here is the pre-IPO valuation at 16 cents of $11.5 million. Now, the company had an external report done by a group called Agricola Mining Consultants, which gave a valuation in the range of between $28 to $40 million. So even if we take the low end of that 28 million, the valuation that we've placed on this round implies a 167% discount to that. So we think it's a very undemanding discount, given the historic works that have been done, which Terry touched on, being the 5,500 metres across 62 holes, which has generated the inferred resource of 83 million tonnes at Maristella. Just before we go into Q&A, Terry, I think it may be benefit to the audience because it wasn't a type of asset that we had come across particularly before we engaged with Riverbank. Just a little bit more detail on Maristella and the titanomagnetite ore body and how common these are and how it generates the three specific and three different saleable products out of one singular ore body, being iron ore, ilmenite, and ferrovanadium.
Well, it is a unique project. I don't think there's many of these around, and the process of this is quite a simple process to start off with. Is a magnetic separation of the ore, which extracts the iron to a grade of 67%, and then there's another process that it goes through to extract the ilmenite, and then a final extraction process to get the vanadium. That's the strength of the project. Is just the simple start of the project is the magnetic separation of the iron from the ore body, and then there's a little bit more technical work to be done to extract the ilmenite and vanadium.
It's a pretty simple flow sheet to follow in the presentation. There's no mystery boxes. Sometimes when you're looking at the metallurgy of these types of projects, there are people that are still saying, well, we just need to work through this particular aspect of the flow sheet. All of this is belts and braces stuff. It's all off the shelf, and it's why we're anticipating a very quick ramp up from mining through to shipping.
All this work has been done independently through ALS in Perth here. They've done spiral testing, they've done magnetic separation testing. So, we know the project works, we know the recoveries can work, we know that the results are there. So it's just a matter of us improving on the project now and get it to a bankable feasibility study.
Wonderful. I think it's an important to note where you talk about the iron ore being a high grade fines of a 67%. Obviously that attracts a fairly substantial price increase to the 62% spot price that we see coming out of China every day.
That's right.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Can we very briefly, gents, talk to the report done in 2016 and updated in 2021 by Snowden Optiro, which basically outlines the economics of the project?
Yeah, well, Snowden's have done two reports on this project, and independent reports again. Quite a recognised company, Snowden's. They've done a fair bit of work on this over the years that we've been working on this project. So the economics of it comes out pretty good, we believe, and probably I dare say that we could probably do a little bit better, but I don't like saying things like that because but anyway, the project stacks up pretty well according to Snowden's.
I've been talking to Snowden's as recently as this morning because it's important for us to just freshen a couple of things up, not so much obviously as far as our geology, etc. goes, but as far as markets go. We're looking at a much or a picture that's even rosier than when this work was done. So it's pretty bright lights we're looking at. It's looking good. And Snowden, I think, are pretty well known by anyone in the industry as people that are the go-to company to use for this.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you. Just mindful of time, happy to open it up to Q&A from now. So please feel free to input your questions into the chat box or the Q&A section of the Teams. There's a couple in here already. So the first one, based on historic drilling, what is the life of mine, and is that sufficient already to be a project?
Well, the life of mine at the moment is about 16 years on what we have at the moment, but there's around about 270 million tonnes there in total, and that's just on, I think that's just on the 83 million tonnes that we've outlined at the moment for mining. But we can improve this project up to, we believe, and Snowden believes, up to about 20, 25 years. So the life of the mine at the moment is about 16 years, and the ongoing work that we do on this project over the next couple of years will probably send it north of that in some considerable amount, probably 20 million tonnes, say.
Lovely. Next one that's come through, we've seen a large spike in the price of ferrovanadium in the past few years. Can you talk to why that's been the case, and is this current pricing of above $40,000 sustainable in the medium to long term?
Well, vanadium is a unique commodity. It's utilised, and they're using a lot of it now in batteries, I believe. It's used in aircraft manufacturing. It's got quite a sort of armaments and those types of things. So it's in demand because of the global situation to where it is. The ongoing issues that we have globally at the moment is costing the commodity industry quite a bit, and it's going to be difficult in the future to establish markets to cover the demand for these commodities. And we know that it takes at least 5 years from discovery to production to get a mine off the ground. And I think you're going to see a considerable increase in commodity prices over the next few years. It just has to. It can't sustain its low rate right now. The demand for these commodities is going to be immense, not only for vanadium, but a lot of other commodities too, nickel, copper. Well, we see that constantly every day. I know there's tremendous fluctuations on the market, but I think in the long term, you're going to see a massive increase in commodity prices.
Yeah. We're a pretty hungry race of people, we human beings. Sure. Look, vanadium, the other comment to that is that it's a battery metal, obviously, but it tends to run in parallel to lithium, nickel, etc. But geopolitics, Michael, are defining commodity prices as much as anything else. But in this circumstance, vanadium is, regardless of that, is a growing metal as far as demand goes. So we've got very realistic glasses on looking at this project, but we reserve the right to have them rose-coloured.
Sure. Last couple of questions, guys. So earlier in the presentation, you spoke to both economic and environmental reports that had either been completed or ongoing.
Yeah.
Can you just elaborate on that a little bit, and thus further giving us an idea of how much work has gone on into this project historically to get it to this current point?
Well, over the last 2 years, we've had the economic, what do they call it?
The economic impact report.
Study done on this project. The reason why it's taken 2 years is because of the seasons, and they needed the seasons to cover, the different growths and different states of the climate and what have you there on this particular project. We've just had a 904-page report on this independent economic study, and it's just gone into the local government there for approval, and part of it has been approved, we believe, over the last 2 weeks. The rest of it should be tidied up. We have 2 more approvals to go through, which will be completed by the end of this year. That will take us into a situation where we can get a mining license on this project. So by the end of this year, we'll have a mining license on this project, and all the studies, the environmental studies, and all the other applications that we have to abide by on this project will be completed by the end of this year. But the main one was the economic independent study, which took, as I say, the 2 years because of the season situation there to cover everything. And this extensive report, it was costly, but it had to be done. Yeah.
There's been a lot of many millions already spent on this, which is maybe something that we'd like the viewers to understand. That environmental report, one of the two major hurdles has already been bought off, and that is the archaeological one. We had confirmation of that come through last week, and that's a pretty critical one. So we're feeling very positive about the whole process going through pretty well.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you, gents. For anyone on the call, so copies of the environmental, economic, Snowden or Agricola reports can be available through signing of a non-disclosure agreement. If you would like to see those, please just contact us directly and we can arrange for that prior to the anticipated close of the raise. So without any further questions coming through, so we'll just circle back on the metrics to finish off. So as we said previously, looking to raise $1 million at a price of 16 cents. The offer opened on Friday and is scheduled to close 4 p.m. Australian Eastern Time this Friday, being the 12th of July, with allocations advised shortly thereafter. Should you have any further questions or would like to set up a one-on-one meeting with the company, we're more than happy to facilitate that in coming days. And as I say, this 1 million round is in anticipation and ahead of a proposed $20 to $25 million IPO either later this year or at the very start of next year, with the use of funds articulated on the right-hand side of the page, being exploration activities, a pre-feasibility, and even a bankable feasibility, giving rise to what Gavin said earlier of this being the sole equity round by the company with future funding to take place via debt. With that, I'd say thank you very much to both Gav and Terry for your time today. And thank you everyone who's joined us on the call. Should you wish for further information, please don't hesitate to contact either Alex or myself at Sequoia directly. And thank you for your time and have a great day.
Thank you, Michael, and everybody out there. We wish you all the best for this year. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Cheers.
See you.